something incredibly important, which is around the opportunity for businesses to collaborate with universities. And I think one of the things that we've heard throughout the course of today is how important collaboration is. And it feels natural that universities and businesses should collaborate, but the reality is that it doesn't happen nearly as much as it could and it should. So I'm delighted to say we've got a fantastic panel here who are going to share their experiences of how to make it happen and the benefits that can be derived, and hopefully between them will fire your enthusiasm for finding out more and the opportunity to drive innovation, knowledge exchange within your organisation. So I'm going to very quickly ask each of the panellists just to say who they are and where they're from. I know you can read, but it'd be great to just get in your own words. And then we'll start to explore these different perspectives. So, Paul, you're singing for your supper today. Here you are again, but please do reintroduce yourself.
So, I'm Paul Jackson. I'm from the business school at Brookes. But I've also been living in the region now for nearly 30 years. And I've spent time in academia and outside of academia, and I have been involved in setting up a business, running a business, and in providing business consultancy and business advice, including into local authorities. So I can see today's agenda from, I think, various viewpoints.
Great. Okay. Rajat.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. So I'm Rajat Gupta. I'm Professor of Sustainable Architecture and Climate Change at Oxford Brookes University. Over the last 20 years, I've been doing a lot of work in terms of research and innovation projects in collaboration with the public, private, and third sectors. My area of work is around net zero and climate resilience, really using a place-based approach that was mentioned in the previous session. About 10 years back, I was involved in setting up something called an Eco-Bristol Living Lab, which was with A2 Dominion and Cherville Council, and we really set ourselves the task to kickstart innovation in the area around net zero. We did about 10 projects. For the university, the benefit was we also got PhD studentships co-funded. For local businesses, there was access to expert knowledge and training. And at the moment, I've recently launched a very large research program called Hare, looking at, it's a national research hub on net zero health and extreme heat, which is really relevant for today, for example. And that has 32 project partners across all UK nations. So we had lots of people last week at the launch. Professor Jota kind of opened it. So it's an experience which I think is vital for us because it brings for us impact from day one. And for our stakeholders, it's useful because, again, access to expert knowledge and expertise is vital.
Great, thank you. Matt.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Matt Hogan. So I work for an organisation called Innovate UK Business Connect, which is a partner organisation to Innovate UK itself. Innovate UK, if you're not familiar with us, is the UK's national research and innovation agency. So its mission is to provide support, funding for businesses to develop and commercialise new products, new services. And it does that through a variety of mechanisms, business support, innovation loans, and primarily grants. So my role is exclusively on one of the grant funding mechanisms that Innovate UK provide, which is known as the Knowledge Transfer Partnerships Scheme, or KTP. I'm actually sharing a platform with two of the three other members of the platform who've been involved with the project with me as well, which is great.
Fantastic. And Dominic, finally you, I mean, similarly, you have done more than your fair share of speaking today, but please, in your own words.
So Dominic Hare, CEO, Blenheim Palace and the Blenheim Estate, an old 330-year-old entity which has a very vibrant innovation group, permanent innovation group in our midst, driving an awful lot of change. We have, that group is 2.5 people permanently, but I doubt on the floor it's ever less than 6 people as we play host to a rolling cast of brilliant researchers, doctorate students, master students, etc., from both our great universities. We've certainly had massive benefits from knowledge transfer partnership and funding from Innovate UK. Similarly, very significant funding from the EU Horizon programme, again in partnership with Brookes, and we have formal partnerships with both the universities, as I say. So I'll have to say, and this is the geeky accountant in me, our innovation team has been a net credit in our P&Ls every single year. That's not just me rigging the books. I'm very proud of the group in it, and I'm proud of the partnerships that we have with people sitting on this platform.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, that's positioned all of you really, really well. So, Matt, I'm going to start with you because you helpfully told people what Innovate UK is, and you very helpfully mentioned knowledge transfer partnerships in your introduction. Can I just do a quick straw poll? Who has heard of KTPs?
Oh, fantastic.
Pretty good. Okay. That's really, really encouraging because we did some research a couple of years ago and it showed that within science and technology companies, there was actually quite poor recognition of knowledge transfer partnerships, KTPs. And actually people often confuse them with another one of the things that Innovate UK does, which is knowledge transfer networks. So just to make sure everybody's on the same page, Matt, tell us what a knowledge transfer partnership is and what's in it for everyone in the room.
Okay, good question. Yeah, so a knowledge transfer partnership, fundamentally it's a relationship between a business entity, and that can be a traditional business, it can be a third sector organisation, and in some cases a public sector organisation now. And that organisation has a challenge, it has a strategic intent, a problem that it would love to solve, but it doesn't have the competencies and the skills internally to be able to do that, and also the facilities. So the scheme is a way of lining up that business need with academic offer, and a way of accessing the thought leadership, skills and experience that exists within the university network primarily. And that's done through the provision of a grant. Myself or one of my colleagues sits alongside the team as the project unfolds and forms part of the project steering team. So there's a huge amount of support there. And primarily the grant is there to fund the employment of what we call an associate. The associate is an employee of the university, but they work and they're embedded with the business partner, and they deliver that knowledge transfer over the course of the project. So by the end of the project, not only have you solved that problem, but that the host organisation has also got a new skill set for the long term. At the moment, we have around 800 live projects nationally. That floats a little bit, but 800 is a good number, and we have about £50 million worth of funding per annum for them.
So you just mentioned that funding. I think one of the things that probably people don't recognise is that there is a financial contribution that goes towards the cost of that associate, so that individual that comes to work as an employee of the university but embedded in the business. Can you say a little bit about that? Sure,
yeah. So the grant covers for an SME 2/3 of the cost of the project, and the business provides a cash contribution for the remaining third. If you're a large organisation, then it's a 50-50 split. So typically, for an SME, you're looking at around sort of £30,000 a year is the typical contribution. For that, you get a full-time virtual employee, really, from the university, but you also get dedicated time from the academic team as well. So you get that dedicated time from the experienced academic team, and you also have an open door to the university as well for other collaborations.
Great.
Sarah, can I just add, on a KTP here, we ended up, and this was sort of massive improvisation by Simonetta Manfredi and some of the Oxford team, we ended up rolling on a project and creating a private KTP in which we cut Innovate UK out in a sense.
Right.
Because the value being created was so important, and we wanted to run on with the exploitation work quickly. So, yeah, I don't know if I probably couldn't say to you at the beginning we would have started without that. It was absolutely crucial. We had the pump prime of Innovate UK, but the value creation was so significant that we were happy to roll on.
Well, I mean, that really demonstrates the value of the project, isn't it? Which you were able to transition to investing in that because it was bringing such value to you and something that you wanted to continue. So Dominic, as you've taken the floor, I'm actually going to go slightly different direction in terms of my original plan, because you mentioned in your introduction the fact that you have this innovation group. So you've got a group of people who presumably are saying, these are things that we need to do within the organisation to innovate. Could you talk to us a little bit about your experience of how you identify some of those challenges and some of those problems that you feel would be suitable to engage with a university to help you to solve?
Yes, I'll kind of answer that in two ways. The first is there is a kind of sweet spot, I would say, and Matt will helpfully refine this if I get this wrong, in that Innovate UK doesn't just fund change or innovation per se. I mean, you are looking for something bigger which potentially solves multiple challenges or can solve a challenge for multiple kinds of people. So one of the KTV project we were looking at, for example, is something we call a smart visitor management system, which allows us to predict to a very high level of accuracy both the number of visitors who will come on a given day, but then make even more important predictions on the day about how everyone will behave on site, so that we can plan against that. We can literally resource live if toilets are being used more than we predict. Cleaners can go there more quickly. And of course, we can't predict what anyone does on the site, but once you get a group like 1,500 people on the site, you actually can make better predictions. And so that sweet spot is kind of where you start. But what we've created there is something that can be rolled out to many sites that look like us around the country. So that was one point, was finding that sweet spot, because that gave us the maximum chance. This was a conversation with Brookes. It wasn't us imagining this as to what to do. In terms of how we identify the innovation challenge, I mean, we're a complex organisation with many, many challenges, and in some ways it's internal marketing. I think when you start to think about innovation, almost everybody's first thought in some ways goes digital or online, and can we do a thing that's manual and make it online? And I think solving a couple of quick challenges, but then getting the team out there to pitch for whatever problems we have, wherever time is being used, wherever cost or uncertainty happens, and can we find solutions for that? And actually, some of the biggest triumphs were completely non-technical, but the big stuff tends to be the stuff that solves problems for multiple groups of people. And I think that's what that essentially allowed us to settle on the right people to lead and run that team. And they, of course, created an amazing collaborative environment, which meant that more people around the organisation had joined in, but more to the point. We have not just a rolling cast of people on long-term projects, but we've just had someone in for 2 weeks writing a model to predict sandwich types that would sell on a particular day. A much smaller project, but that's what comes out of that innovation ecosystem.
I was wondering why the cafe was loading up a big pile of flapjacks as I walked in to go and buy a cup of tea earlier.
AI knows you.
Yeah, there we are. They knew I was coming. So on that point, Paul, if I can turn to you, I think this kind of question of how, as an organisation, do you know if this is something that you should be solving in your own organisation by maybe bringing in, a consultant or a contractor to help you build a digital tool, versus something that is really a sort of a bigger picture question where the capability of a university is what is the organisation that you should be engaging with. From being on the other side of the fence on this KTP, can you give some reflections on that?
It's a really important question, and you were asking Dom, how do you spot these opportunities? But the point is, every organisation in this room has innovation opportunities, loads of them, but you might not think about them. You might not be as good as Blenheim is, because Blenheim is very sort of curious, positive. It's inherently innovative. It's looking for new ways of doing things. And, the more an organisation is like that, the more prone it's going to be to collaborating with external experts in order to explore those opportunities. So, put it the other way around. Universities are places, yes, they're full of clever people, but they're stuffed full of knowledge. There's this scientific knowledge, research laboratories, new technologies are evolving from universities. Not, all the great ideas aren't coming from universities just, but a lot of them are. And if you wait until those ideas come downstream, become embodied in new products and services, well, everybody's got access to them. So the other part of this is, would you not prefer to be there early, to show your competitors a clean pair of heels, to get ahead of them and to experiment with new ways of doing things? So it's that sort of instinct for experimentation, an ability to cope with ambiguity, to have a risk tolerance. All of those things are important. So that's the sweet spot that I think we're talking about. But also, we've got clever people. You need clever people too. David Green, the head of innovation, a brilliant partner. Not many people have somebody like David. So he's been part of the key to the success of our KTP. So, you need those skills on that side as well. So it's all of those things bundled together. But I think, what starts it is curiosity, an appetite for collaboration, a desire to be in there early, a willingness to take a risk, and a willingness just to knock on the door and to start the conversation.
So if I can just continue with that theme, because you made that point in the previous session, which is universities are places that have open doors. We may not necessarily see those open doors. What, if I may, can I ask you, Paul, and then Rajat, please come in and with your reflections. How do the people in the room, the businesses, how do they find the door? How do they open it up? How do they find the person who may not be eventually the right person, but the person they can come and start having that conversation with and exploring the issue that they have?
It's going to vary from place to place. In our case, we have a research, innovation and enterprise team, RIE. If you emailed rieenquiries@brookes.ac.uk, it would go to that team. But as I said before, no wrong door. If you ask me, I'll introduce you to the right people, or somebody that will move the conversation on. We'd love to hear from people. We want to work with businesses who are out there who are keen to work with us. So have a look at the website. Just talk to the people that you know, because a lot of these relationships start with someone you know. And, universities, the other thing about them, they're quite big places. So a conversation might start with me in the business school. We might start a project and, we spot an opportunity for something else. The sandwich science project, that was a student project. And we had a student do that for his master's project. And that there's been occasions where I've introduced Rajat's colleagues in architecture to Blenheim because there was an opportunity opening up there. So, just start, and, you don't know where those links will go.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with Paul. I think there's also another opportunity in universities is our postgraduate students and our graduate students who will every year be doing dissertation projects over 3 to 4 months. So there's an opportunity of getting rapid research done without investing financially, actually. And students are very much interested in doing real-world applied work. Wherever we've had dissertation projects working with businesses, and I had 2 of the dissertations working with green core construction last year, students get employed very fast. So it works both ways for businesses to get access to rapid research, some answers that you're looking for, research problems, and maybe use that as pump priming, then to put in applications for KTP as well. Apart from Innovate UK, which completely respect, I've had numerous projects with Innovate UK, even UK research councils offer case awards. There are lots of other ways. My first research council award was actually a case award with ICE Energy, who do heat pumps. And the student did extremely well. They were, the entire grant came from, UK Research Innovation that time, Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council. So there are various ways. And as Paul said, our RIE, directorate is the first step. But any school, any faculty you would contact with will put you in touch with the right person.
So can I just say, I'll come in with my own experience here, because we've had 4, I think, I'm thinking, is it 4, of your postgraduate students who were doing postgraduate courses relevant to projects that we were running, where we have brought them in to come and be part of the team. And in fact, we've paid them because we think that that's important to do. That's part of our inclusive economy pledge that we will do so. But they've been fantastic, and they've been so enthusiastic, and they've brought really interesting ideas and capabilities in to the teams, and those are projects that they've done alongside their academic study as well as I should say that we have also done a collaborative PhD project with Oxford Brookes, which has been a really fantastic experience. So I'm not just here moderating because Simonetta asked me, but I've actually got a little bit of skin in the game, I should say. So I'm still thinking, however, that for a lot of people, they will think, well, that's great. You're saying that there are open doors. Clearly, there's a route in to help us as a first point of contact within Brookes. But Matt, if I can come back to you, I suspect that the kind of prospect of applying for something through a bear moth of Innovate UK might seem very intimidating, but I think you're going to say that there's a huge amount of hand-holding that goes on. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what the process is and how you make sure that it's a really positive experience for the business involved?
Sure, yeah. I mean, absolutely. You know, it is. There's a lot of information out there. It's a bit noisy. It's busy. You can be put off by the sheer amount of programs and you know, calls for funding that exist out there, and you can get a little bit bogged down in the criteria and that sort of aspect. But absolutely, when we think about knowledge transfer partnerships, we have around 110 academic institutions nationally are involved in KTPs. They will all have someone who leads on those from a university perspective. So in terms of applying for the grant, understanding whether the challenge that you've got as a business will align with the program, all of those questions will be discussed up front. If necessary, myself or one of my colleagues will be brought in to help with that conversation. You know, Oxford Brookes, for example, I do quite a lot of KCPs with. I'm on the phone to someone at Brookes probably on a weekly basis. And that's how we want it to be. You know, that we want to help, we want to bring more people in and take away the scariness a little bit. So those individuals in all of the universities across the UK are very used to answering those initial inquiries, concerns, and trying to narrow down on what's going to be a good application. Something like KTP has a very high success rate. So the conversion from applied for grants to awards has been running around 85% for the last 10 to 20 years, I would say. And part of that is because we want to help and make sure that we help you write a quality application that is going to you know, be appropriate for the scheme and actually maximising the opportunity. Sometimes when we start the discussions with a business, the nature of the project can pivot a little bit, or it could even get bigger and be more expansive. So we're always looking to get the maximum benefit. And as Dom was saying around you know, the outcomes for Blenheim, the original project was fantastic. Where is it now? It's much bigger.
There's been a lot to spin out from that, actually, but I was just remembering as you talked a meeting years ago at Blenheim with, I would guess, half a dozen Brookes academics from different schools of Brookes debating two problems that we felt we could address. One became the smart visitor management system. Another was an idea around repeated very high definition photography of all our stone and fabric here to try to detect, use AI in some way to detect changes before they were visible to the naked eye so that we could intervene. And you can see how that might be interesting as well. And a very open discussion with some very clever people about which of those was the more solvable problem, which was the one most likely to attract funding support from Innovate UK. And there probably was someone like Matt or Brookes opposite number at the table advising on that. And our hand was held from the right project decision through that process. And Brookes were highly proactive.
Great. Rajat, if I can turn to you just as we start to wrap up. you've obviously been involved in some really big collaborative projects. You've given some examples, including something that's been launched quite recently. Drawing on your experience, what do you think businesses should know as they go into a collaboration with a university? What will make it successful?
I think it's a really good question. I think what I found over the years, I've worked with businesses of different types, including technology providers and built environment professionals and others. And whenever we ask them what do they gain from it, the answer is credibility and trust. So by working with the university, their ideas become more credible. And most of the times they kind of tell us that the university is able to advise them what works, where, and for whom and under what circumstances, whatever the problem is. And I think that's very important because as a university, we're able to provide that impartiality as well, alongside all the support that's been talked about, which is vital for kind of taking an idea to commercialization later on. And there are various means of doing that.
Great, okay. So as we draw to a close, can I ask each of you just to sort of give a couple of words reflection on why you think that this is a good thing to do? What's in it for everybody? Dom, let's start with you.
It takes our business forward by leaps and bounds. The Smart Visitor Management System is now known in the market. All of our peers from the National Trust and the RHS down to small historic house in Wales know we have it, they want it, we have it. And you can see where the business model might go there. I would also just say hunger in the business to learn. You're very right to highlight David Green, our head of innovation, and Zahid, and that the way the Smart Visitor Management System now affects and is part of the lives of a good 3-figure group of people here, and very actively a big double-figure group. The way they receive it and the excitement they have is important.
Matt?
Yeah, I think when lots of different businesses in different areas here today, I think some businesses we talk to, it can take those businesses quite a long time to think they have a problem that's worthy of working with the university, actually. Maybe they are businesses that have never had those type of collaborations before and don't realise that that help is out there. So when you're thinking about what those challenges you've got in the coming years are, ask yourself the question, is it worth just picking up the phone to one of the local universities and starting a conversation? Because you'd be surprised as to where that could go.
Great.
Yeah, no, agree with that. I think it's the access to expert knowledge and partnerships that's possible very rapidly in different ways. So businesses can benefit by those partnerships, not just through a formal application, but also by working with our students and get answers rapidly.
And Paul?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. What's left to say? I'll sort of take it up a level maybe and just think about John Churchill there, 1704. Think, this palace was finished 1722. Okay, 300 years. This palace hasn't changed hugely. The world outside has changed massively. And that's particularly because of science and technology. But it's not because those ideas are bubbling around in university laboratories. It's because they've been taken out, experimented with, embedded in new business processes, new products, new industrial sectors. That's what's changed the economy over the centuries. That's what's changed society. And that happens when people do new things. And that requires a collaboration between organizations and businesses and people generating the basic science and technology that can lead to societal innovation.
So I'm going to wrap up by saying that government, I talked about government this morning, periodically does a national innovation survey. And this region is one of the most innovative by all measures. But that is not about just our science and technology businesses. It's about all of our businesses embracing innovation and thinking about ways in which you can do things differently in new ways and solve problems. And I hope that all of you will go away and now think about the fact that working with one of our local universities could be a way for you to bring innovation and new thinking and knowledge exchange into your organisation. So please join me in thanking the panel